Don't do it.
Oh, no, I found. Look at. All right, click that one. That was pretty funny.
Tell me if you feel a lump.
Come on, dude.
Dude, it's pretty good. You should click that link, Aris.
Alright, I'll click it.
It's gonna break the whole chat, dude.
Where is it?
It's in the Google chat.
Google chat?
Yeah,
No, I'm not gonna fuck with that. It's gonna ruin everything.
It'll work.
How about if I type it in the actual live chat? Or
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, you could do that.
there. I don't even know how I found that, but that's amazing.
Oh, time
Time to spin. Ugh.
Hey, internet. How's everybody doing?
Internet.
to spin. Internet.
You know, I couldn't find that video again. I had a hard time finding it. Anyway, internet, how you guys doing? My name's Aris. You guys are watching ATP Live. I think it's Thursday. I'm joined by Rickstah. What's up, Ricky?
Doing good.
What's up, Rip? How's it going?
Doing good.
All right. Doing
I copied
equally
Ricky.
good, it sounds like. Yeah, you're always copying, huh? You gotta copy that guy.
Best strats.
Yeah. Anyway, so how you guys doing, man? Let's have a heart to heart. You guys doing all right?
Yeah.
Tight. Anyway, the song, in case you guys were wondering, was Elevator Action. A big fan. I'm a big fan of that game, mostly because there's no action involved at all when it comes to elevators, though they combine those two. So that was a good one. So today we got a couple topics. First of all, Flying Wonky put a post on the website about the global tournament. It's on October 20-something, 26th. Ricky, you're always on point.
Sure.
Okay, October 26th.
Sounds
It's in
right.
Korea, and it's a little peculiar because since the tournament and all the qualifiers are being held on the arcade version of Tekken Tag 2, certain countries and certain regions in the globe, which this is a global tournament, but certain countries didn't get a spot. The reason they didn't get a spot is most likely because they don't have an arcade machine to run the event on. Now, a lot of people are in an uproar. Like, for example, South America doesn't have a spot. And there's a lot of good Tekken players in South America.
Venezuela.
And yeah, Venezuela, of course. And also Europe is a really big Tekken region, and no spot for Europe. So I think it's kind of funny how, a ton of people were like, since the article was put up on my site, a ton of people are coming to me like, what the fuck, Aris? Like, what am I supposed to do about it, man? It's not my problem. Yeah, I agree. That sucks. But, I mean, what do you guys think about that? Like, it's hard for us to kind of put ourselves in their shoes because we have a spot here, and it's very close to us. But it's kind of like, I feel like this has happened before, so why is everyone so bent out of shape? What do you guys think? What do you think, Ricky, about this? Do they have a right to be pissed?
Well, I mean, it's kind of just the way it went. I mean, it's only on arcade, which it's already hurting players that even want to enter. I mean, Rip can't use double loss, so it's like because it's not on console, and it's only on stick. It's already alienating so many players. So why not just make it, 1/10 of the entire Tekken community is able to join. I mean, personally, we're lucky that we even have an arcade. They could have done it in NorCal. They have a machine. They could have done it in New York, but they chose SoCal. So we got extremely lucky with that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. But what about those? What about, let's say, there are 3 equivalents to us in Europe, right? Just 3 dudes that really like Tekken and compete and want to participate. Would you be in an uproar if you were there, if you were them? Would you be like, man, fuck this, Europe, where's our spot? Is that how you would feel? Or would you be like, this is the way it panned out, this is the way it had to be, whatever, I'll still support it? Because a lot of people are like, you know what, fuck this, fuck that, I don't even, they're like really against it. How do you guys feel about that? Rip, what's your thoughts on this?
Sorry, I clicked on some links. But
They're good, I know.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting. First of all, does Europe even have an arcade machine?
No, I don't think so. Not like a working one.
There's not a Tekken Tag 2 arcade cabinet in the entire continent of Europe.
You know, I can't say for sure, but from what I heard, yeah, I don't think they do. I mean, where is it?
Yeah, if that's the way it is, then there's no way they can have a qualifier.
Well,
That's the way I see it.
I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to go ahead and say what other people have said, which is, well, Namco, it wouldn't have been that hard for Namco to have brought a machine over and ran a qualifier there, right? That's the argument. How do you feel about that argument?
I think they're spending a lot of money already just to throw the tournament and to fly the players out for the tournament and then to give away a $10,000 prize on top of that. So for them to be shipping around an expensive arcade unit, to another continent sounds like additional expenses that are really kind of unnecessary.
That is the correct
I mean,
answer.
I wouldn't say unnecessary because, I mean, as far as I know, Europe, the region, sells better than USA does. So, I don't think, I mean, they're obviously going to piss off a larger fan base, but at the same time, we're always the minority, the competitive players compared to the casuals. So
That's true too. That's true too. But then, okay, so I think you're right. I think that obviously the reason they wouldn't do something so extravagant is because they just don't have that kind of a budget to allocate to a game where this money they put into the global tournament really isn't going to get them any return. It's basically like fan service. I mean,
Right.
the game's already been released. They made the money that they were going to make on it, So I can understand from a business standpoint how this is kind of an easy way to do it. It's even probably easier to do it this way than to run like a console, series of events, Because then if they did that, they would have to have multiple. They wouldn't have an excuse to having like multiple regionals in the U.S. and then sending one out, like they used to in the old days back when, Jason Arney was running the show and stuff, So I'm even surprised they even did it at all. That's like kind of where my stance is. What do you think, Ricky? I mean, do you think this is the end for global tournaments? Because it seems like it's really late in the game and really disorganized. And now that Filthy Rich kind of left, I also wonder who's really organizing it and where is it coming from? What do you think? Will they continue supporting competitors like this?
Well, I mean, I didn't think they were going to run one. So just the fact that we
Yeah.
have one was subscribed. Or damn, I just said subscribe. Hey, that said no message, guys. Subscribe to your channel, dude.
All right,
Cool.
man.
Boom.
Thanks, amigo.
Nice guy. I like him. Anyways, I'm surprised that they even ran one for this. But I guess I think they know that there's a community there that is competitive. But I would be surprised if after the next Tekken they ran another one. But we'll see.
Go ahead, Rip.
No, I was thinking the other thing that's kind of interesting about them running the global qualifiers where there were arcade machines is that there was kind of an uproar when arcade version was released about Pass taking a cut of every game that was played.
Right.
Right? So, I mean, like, technically, Namco could just be saying, like, look, these machines already brought in some money. We're spending the money back towards those players that, supported the machines there. So I can see it much more justified in them using that as an expense to fly the players out to Korea, etc.
That's an interesting
run the
thing.
event.
I didn't even think about that. I mean, yeah, maybe that's a way for them to give back to the arcade community, which brings up another kind of a thought to me. So Tekken Tag 2, all right, it came out already like more than a couple years ago on arcade, right? So what I'm thinking is they must already be looking forward at the next arcade version of Tekken. Now, Namco's arcade division is a pretty big chunk of their money. Like they have a really big arcade division which produces a lot of their revenue. Maybe not in the US, but globally there's a lot of action, right? A lot of elevator action. So what I wonder is, do you think that the next Tekken will make it to arcades? Or do you think that it may not even make it to arcades? It's possible that it may not. What do you think, Ricky?
I would assume it does make it to arcades. Even though I know that like Japan's arcade scene is not doing as well as it has in the past, just like everywhere else. I think Namco looks at Tekken as an arcade game first, and then the console kind of comes secondary. Every Tekken that's come out has always come on arcade first, except for like the Resolute. But no, I don't count that really.
Yeah, but it's the newest game. Could it be a trend?
I mean, we we'll have to find out. I don't think it will be though. I can't imagine them not putting it out for arcades until like literally all the Japan arcades are just like dead.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Usually businesses like Namco have like a very like an expert team of people who are supposed to kind of like forecast what's going to happen in the future. So that way they'll know, like what they're investing into. So if if they see what basically every other country sees, they'll see that arcades are on the decline and maybe they have to move in a different direction, which is kind of what they're showing with this Tekken Revolution thing. So to me, I think I'm on the fence. It's possible that they may not even release it on arcade. Maybe they'll release it straight to console, which I think will be devastating for the franchise. And I only say that because Soul Calibur, which I want to talk about a little more later in the show, but Soul Calibur 2, the last good one, was developed on an arcade, for arcades. The last good one. As soon as they started developing that game for consoles, it began sucking 6 dicks in a row. I mean, as soon as they started. Soul Calibur 3 immediately was trash. So I'm worried. I'm concerned because I think on the one hand, it's the smart thing for Namco to do just because of, Tekken Tag 2 didn't do so hot, and I know it was very expensive to produce in the way that they produced it. So I don't know. Maybe they're gonna think, well, that was a fuck up. Let's try something else, totally new. What do you think, Rip?
Uh, I think that because the budget for the arcade is, I mean, not the budget, but because of the money that the arcade business brings in, I think that they kind of have to release the next Tekken in arcade. The interesting thing is whether it's going to be a next gen game or not, because that'll depend, or that'll push their arcade division totally in a different direction. And if that's going to be a really expensive direction, then they may just say, all right, screw arcades. Arcades are dying around the world anyway. This Tekken Revolution thing we've got going on seems to be making enough money right now. It's pretty popular. Maybe this is the direction we should go for future Tekkens. And Tekken Revolution is kind of interesting because it started off pretty imbalanced with the power levels, etc.
Yeah.
And now they've made a pretty major patch to that system, and it's still not quite there yet. But it's obviously still a step in the right direction. So I can see them using this model for future Tekkens and having it work a lot better than, say, Soul Calibur 3 did back in the day when it didn't get an arcade release.
Right. I totally agree with you. I mean, because the thing is this. Okay. Street Fighter 4 is coming out with the new version. The game came out just after Tekken 6 came out. Like in 2008, it was released in the arcades. So it's ridiculous to me that, I mean, it's such a good idea. It's ridiculous that they're doing it, but I can't believe they're still supporting this old-ass game, which is really cool, right? So I think if that kind of a model is going to continue, they have to find a way to continuously make money off the game. And that's what the tokens and the tickets and the special effects and all that shit in Revolutions does. So even if the business model of Tekken Revolution isn't the perfect business model, like let's say it could have been better, could have been like a League of Legends thing. I mean, I'm sure there are better ideas on making it more addictive. But regardless, if that kind of a direction promotes the consistent and long-term patching of a game, I'm all for that shit, dude. I think that's great. The one thing I've always liked about PC games like, StarCraft and StarCraft 2 and all those games that I actually despise, the one thing that I like about them is that they get support for years. Like, oh, a new Frozen, Protoss throne came out. Boom. And it's like a new game. They add all kinds of shit, balance changes. It's like continuously thriving. And that's what I think is a great idea for fighting games. And, the way they patch it and stuff is not even where I'm at yet. I'm just talking about the continued support. And I don't mean the way NetherRealms does it. I mean, NetherRealms is cool, the fact that at least they don't poop out a product and they're like, all right, everybody go fuck yourself. This is what you got. It's cool that they are trying to mold their product into something that more people like. I just don't know who is or isn't qualified to be, people that they listen to, which is another thing that I want to talk about later in the
That's a
show.
big topic, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
I know. I want to talk about that. But it's definitely a cool idea, and I'm gonna buy Ultra Street Fighter 4, and I'm never gonna play it. I'm just gonna buy it because I want to support it. I love the idea. Old ass game, continued support, and there is a thriving tournament scene. Evo 2013 just passed. Number one entrance was Street Fighter 4. That's impressive. Whether or not you like the game, it's impressive. So, I'm impressed with that, and I hope that's the direction they go in. I don't love the idea of 3D games cannibalizing themselves, regardless of whether or not the sequel is good. The previous game is dead no matter what, and I don't love that idea. So I think this might, like for example, let's say Tekken Tag 2 is out now, right? But what if they made Tekken 6 ZR right now, today, right? Let's say Tekken Revolutions wasn't Tekken Revolutions. It was Tekken 6 something else, Zebra, Reckoning, right? We would all be really, really amped up about it, right? We'd be like, sick, dude, they came out with a new Tekken 6. We're going to play it. We'd all be playing it versus whatever. I think that would be a great idea. And hypothetically speaking, if Tekken 6 were a game that were produced like Tekken Revolutions, and it were continuously making money for Namco, we might be able to see something like that. And there could be 2 Tekken games that are held as tournament competitive games, or maybe a couple Soul Calibers in there. They don't have to compete with themselves, in my opinion. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about that, Ricky?
I'm stuck on Zebra
Zebra
Revenge or whatever.
Whatever. Who gives a shit, man? It's a fucking analogy.
You just
What?
announced the next character for Tekken Revolution, dude. It's gonna be a freaking zebra.
Zebra head
Go
and
with
shit.
Kuma and them, dude.
Speaking of which, shout outs to iPlayWinner. Those guys are always, those horse headers are always supporting us on this show. So shout outs to those guys. Anyway, so what are you guys talking about?
What are we talking about? It's kind of one of those things where it's like, Evo only likes to support one 3D game, it seems like. The last time they supported 2, 3D fighters, I think was in 2006. But it wasn't really, it was Dead or Alive and Tekken. They're not really the same. You're not breaking up the same community.
Yeah, but last year they had Virtua Fighter and Soul Calibur 5. I mean, Virtua Fighter wasn't an official tournament, but it still had a huge prize pool and a ton of foreigners, Taiwanese people and shit entered, so it was pretty hardcore.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, the thing is that the only way these things can happen is by the community. I mean, the community has to keep the game relevant, And I mean, that's the best example is the Smash Brothers community. They didn't let the new game Brawl take away the old game Melee. They played both, and eventually they were just like, we all hate Brawl. We don't want to play it anymore. And they just kept playing Melee, and that's the game they're gonna play this Sunday at Super.
Man.
They're playing the old version. I mean, it's crazy because for a Tekken player, we've always only played the new version.
Yeah.
When 5 came out, we all said fuck 4. When 6 came out, we said fuck 5. It's just constantly gone like that. Tekken 6 is completely dead because of Tag 2, and once Tekken 7 comes out, Tag 2 is dead, and it's gonna be tough, man. But that's just how this community is.
Well, how can that be prevented?
I don't think you can prevent it.
I'm curious as to whether it's because Tekken is so incremental in its updates. You know what I mean? Here's 2 more moves for your character. You know what I mean? It's not a drastic gameplay change each game.
Yeah, that could be it too. Because Third Strike was even when Street Fighter 4 came out, there was still that core group that were only playing Third Strike. They just didn't like 4. I think that there's not a drastic enough change to make people still play, one game and another. The only time Tekken, I think, had multiple, competitive games were Tekken 4 and Tag 1.
Yeah, but that was only because there was such a huge divide. It was
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was a huge
huge
divide.
That's what's going to have to happen, though, I think the only way, 2 Tekken games right now could last is if the Cross Street Fighter comes out and Tekken 7 comes out, and they're both drastically different games. You
And
know?
you think it has to be hatred that drives that division? Like, do I have to hate one and like the other, and hate the other and like one? I mean, what do you think, Rip? You look like you got something to say.
No, I think it doesn't have to be hatred. I think it just has to be very different gameplay elements. I think that's the key.
If that were true, my initial reaction for a rebuttal is why not? Why isn't Soul Calibur there then at the same time? Those two games are very different, especially now. Back historically, Soul Calibur 2 and Tekken Tag and Tekken 4 were all at Evo at the same time. So back at this time, there was a lot of cross-pollination between all three of these games. A lot of Calibur players were Tekken players and vice versa. So at that time, hatred wasn't, driving it. But now at this time, it seems like the hatred is there. The Soul Calibur 5 community fucking hates Tekken. And Tekken players are like, Soul Calibur 5 came out? I thought it was still on Soul Calibur 3. So, it's impressive that back then it worked together. Now it seems like you guys are saying the gameplay elements need to be very different, and they are. But those two games can't exist. What's the deal?
Well, back then you had arcades and the thing. Southern Hills Golfland is a perfect example.
Yep.
You go there and you see Duck Doe, and no matter what game Duck Doe was sitting at, he was amazing at the game. Whether it be Tag 1, Marvel, whatever, right? Same thing with Vi, Wizard. Everyone played everything then, and so there was no real divide. They were just like, well, I play everything, and I'm going to join everything. Now it's more. Everyone has more of a specialty. I only play this. I only play that. I only play, because really you can only dedicate your time to one game and not multiple, because the communities now between every fighting game don't really have a one gathering spot or something, so you can kind of see every game. That's what the arcades did, and that's what we don't have now.
Yeah. Also, another thing about that is Southern Hills Golfland, when Soul Calibur 2 came out, I remember I was there and I saw Shano playing Soul Calibur 2, and I was like, hey, this guy's a Tekken player, but he's trying this game. Maybe I'll pop in 25 cents and try this thing out and see if I like it as well. You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's like, I got to go just spend $60 straight up and see if I like this thing. I know it's different. Maybe that's not a good idea. So, I mean, a lot of people were able to just try things out for a quarter, see if their gameplay kind of fits, just on the first couple tries.
Yeah, but that's like you're automatically going to new players. I mean, that is a huge factor, and I agree. But in this context, I'm kind of talking about current players. Like, if you pulled up every player who even would consider going to a tournament, who is knowledgeable on the scene, it participates in some way, right? The theory is that you want to get all those people to get involved with multiple games, right? But for some reason, those people are not inclined to, even though they own the games, they're not inclined to really give a shit about more than one. They always just care about one and not the other. And that was not the case before. There was, like you guys said, there was a lot of I'm at the arcade waiting in line for Soul Calibur 2. Yo, Clockwork is playing Duck Doe over here and they're yelling at each other about some shit. Let me see what's going on, So that did happen. But it wasn't just, even back then, there wasn't that many arcades around the country where this was going on. However, the games got a lot of, nice support across the board. So I feel like it's a pickle. There are more games out right now for you to be interested in. And back then, there weren't that many, And now it seems like nobody gives a shit. It's peculiar, and I want to know what you guys think can be done to change it. Do you think it's even possible? Rip?
I'll start. So, I mean, it might be just like a franchise issue. Like, me personally, I got into Soul Calibur 2 a lot more while Tekken 5 was out. And that was the only time I did it the only reason I did that was because it was at the arcade at Cal Poly Pomona. Tekken 5 came out, I started teaching Cal Sonic how to play it, and Soul Calibur 2 was the only other thing to play in the arcade, and that's what he played a lot. So that's where I learned to play Calibur 2 a lot. But then Calibur 3, it came out, I tried to play it. I tried some weird characters, I didn't really get into it much. Same thing with Calibur 4. Calibur 5, I'm I felt like when they started screwing up the move list, that's when I personally really didn't like it. I was like, look, I learned these things before. Why do I have to keep relearning them every
Right,
game?
right.
So that for the franchise really bothered me. Like it's as if like Law's Junkyard is now back 124.
You,
I'm like, what
dude,
the hell would I have to do that?
that's exactly what they did too.
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. I'm like, so I mean that really turned me off that franchise in general. But Caliber 5, I was having fun with it. I just never really clicked, got into it. I don't know what it was.
And you, Ricky?
But so
Oh,
what
go
I was
ahead, go
gonna say,
ahead.
I finished. But I feel like maybe it's just these games are so far into their series. Caliber 5, Tekken
Yeah,
6. Like people might just want something new. Like they learn to expect something from these series for so long now. It's
yeah,
like, well, it's another Tekken game. You're gonna have Paul there, and you're gonna have some Mishimas there doing electrics, and that's the game.
yeah. Been there,
Caliber,
done
yeah,
that, right?
swords, and they're gonna be walking around, and now they're supers, whoop-de-doo, still ring outs, and that's the game. So maybe just people just want something new.
Yeah, that's a reasonable. I mean, that is very reasonable. You can't expect. Yeah, I was thinking about this myself. Like, dude, the people that make these fighting games are way shit out of luck because they got to come up with all kinds of stuff and they're under the microscope. All people do is talk shit, So it's like you're fucked no matter what you do if you're making these fighting games. And that's kind of. I wanted to get into this topic because, since Soul Calibur 2 is being released, and, it's just, this has been on my mind. The difference of that game and games of its time compared to new games. And I think it's really funny that, we all agree that Tekken Tag 2 is a very difficult game, especially for a new user, right? And we look at the other games, right? Let's look at, let's say, Street Fighter 4 or Marvel or any of the other successful fighting games. And one of their primary goals is to make the game simple and easy for the entry level, right? That's one important thing for a fighting game. Even, the guys from Double Helix were at Super Arcade the other day, and I got my chance to play Killer Instinct for the first time. And, they were pitching it to me in that way. Like, check this out. We wanted an entry level player to be able to have fun, do the hardest combos, which is really interesting. It's clear to me that this is a big, important part of development, right? But when you go back and you look at the old games, it's shocking how much simpler they are. I mean, it's just a life bar, a timer, and a ring. There is no need for explanation as far as system mechanics. It's just like, boom, you hit him, you kill him. Now, you can't find a game that doesn't have at least 1 meter or some kind of comeback mechanic that is, it's kind of cliche to complain about comeback mechanics, but it doesn't even necessarily have to exist at all, especially when you go back and play the classic games. It's interesting. It's like the new games and the guys developing them are looking for something to solve their problems. And to solve their problems, they're just putting more shit on top of their games. And it's usually completely arbitrary, artificial depth adding types of shit. And it's not needed. The gameplay itself can produce depth. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about. Think back at your favorite, and this goes to the chat too. Think back at the best games from when you were younger, when you first began understanding the concept of winning and strategy and competing. Think back at what you liked at that time. And then look at the borders of the screen and see how many meters there are and see how many comeback glowing rage mechanics there are or how many bullshit things there are. There aren't a lot. So what I want to know is, what do you guys think about the new Tekken being released with nothing? No rage, no nothing, just walls, whatever, stage, timer, and life bar. How would that pan out? What do you think, Ricky?
It would probably be really sick, to be honest.
Man,
just because it's I think what it is now is that so many new games are looking at every other, every fighting game is looking at something else, right? It's like, Injustice might be looking at Street Fighter 4 and thinking, all right, we need to take this mechanic, change it up a little bit, add, do this, do that. And if you just go back to square one, where it's just life bar, characters, stage, and just have the game, it could be really sick, But that's when they have to actually make the gameplay really sick, and I don't know if companies have confidence in that.
Yeah.
Rip, what do you think about that?
No, I mean I think that's just the key, like what Ricky just said, that companies probably don't have confidence in that. Like, it's hard to make a balanced fighting game, especially even in 2D. Like especially look at the frame data in Injustice, man. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't have the frame data chops. Like, oh, there's one example in my head right now. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's just so annoying.
Talk
But I
about it. I
mean,
want to hear it.
no, okay. So Flash, right?
Uh-huh.
His down two is +3 on block,
Okay.
right? And it's got a 9-frame startup. Most of the fastest moves on game are 6 frames. So what he did to me, I'm Superman. He has me in the corner. He does down two on block into down two. The fast thing I can do to trade with that is a down jab, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I trade with the down jab, and it's gonna launch me, and he's
Right.
gonna get a corner combo. I'm like, does that really need to be +3 like on block? Like, does that really even make sense?
I
I mean, like,
I
my only
disagree with
option
you.
there, my
I
option there is to meter burn back three, but that or push block. I mean, it seems like a really
Okay,
bad
first of
frame
all,
to
you're a
create.
piece of shit, dude. Stop playing Superman. And since the game first came out, he literally does that very thing you're complaining about to every other character. 4-2-3 breath all day, nonstop. And then everyone is like, the best thing I can do is down jab to trade with this fucking asshole. It's the same thing people have been dealing with from the beginning.
What do you do?
So, okay.
I'm just saying, you're making my point here. The point is they don't know how to do it. That's it.
Okay. If that's your point, my point was that fuck you for complaining about that because you've been doing it to people since the beginning. Okay.
Hey, I'm still making top 8.
That's a
all right?
side.
I'm
That's
still
a
in
side point.
I'm still
Okay.
in there.
Okay. Yeah. You're still in there. Okay. But I agree with you. And perhaps think about this, right? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't know if at the time of Soul Calibur 2, the guys who were creating the game system, I don't know if they were thinking like, fuck, we have to create this game system that everyone's going to like. And the thumb of Namco is just pressing down on us, and we're really in a bind to produce tons of money. I don't know if that's what was going on through their mind at that time. I'm not sure, but I feel like at that time the games were produced with higher quality because they were produced by not the community. They were produced by people who want to make a great fighting game. It's their passion. It's what they're doing. It's not because someone's going to give them $100,000 once Martian Manhunter comes out or anything. It's their passion. There's no pressure. And perhaps that's because, I relate it to any other kind of art. You're designing a video game. It's like a work of art, right? Let's look at like a musician, like a band, right? Even if you look at one that everyone knows, like Metallica, right? Metallica, if you look back at, Ride the Lightning, these guys they're like the worst time of their life. Drugs, alcohol, they got nothing but bad shit going on. So that's when they produce the best music, right? Then when the money starts rolling in, they don't have anything to complain about. What are they going to fucking sing about? Gold-plated shark tanks, right? So the quality of the music declines, right? It gets more popular too, which is peculiar. But the thing is, the core quality changed. It became less about the heart and soul and more about, the cheddar, So do you guys think that it would take some developer who just ignores the cheddar, ignores the community, and just develops something from the heart and soul? Do you think that would survive in this day and age? What do you think, Ricky?
Let's get cocaine over to Japan and give Harada like hella cocaine and see what happens. I'm down. I mean, I don't.
Okay. Party hard.
I don't know, to be honest, man. Like it still has to be a good game regardless. And
I just don't think that the pressure that they're under right now, which is a ton, I don't think that kind of pressure can produce good games. It's like I feel bad for them. Even Harada, like so many people are shitting on him. The poor guy's trying to produce quality for the community. You think he doesn't want to make money? You think he doesn't want his games to be popular? It's just an immense amount of pressure on these guys, and I don't even know how the fuck they're gonna do it. It would be just insane for, in this day and age, a brand new game to come out and be of the highest quality. What do you think, Rip? Do you think it has to do with the pressure and the money, or do you think developers can produce quality stuff if it's done as like an art form? What do you think?
I think that developers just need to make games the way they want to make the game and let the FGC and the community, play with it and figure it out that way. I think that was one of the reasons I really liked Injustice, actually, is because, and NRS in general, like when they came out with MK9, like they just like, we know that you guys expect fighting games to be like this, and we're gonna take some of those concepts, but yeah, we're gonna have a block button still in MK9, and you guys can deal with that because that's how we make our games, And I thought that was pretty cool because it's like, everyone expects fighting like hold back to block, blah blah blah, and they're just like, no, you gotta hold the block button, and I thought that was pretty cool. Injustice kind of the same thing, like they're like, yeah, okay, people are gonna think these interactables are goofy, but you know what, whatever, we're gonna put them in, and they're gonna deal with it. We'll give them an option, but generally they're going to deal with it. We're trying to balance it in that way, and so it's interesting. I think that the key is really just that fighting game developers just have to make sure that they're making something that's fun. Like balance is important, sure, but having fun while playing a game is the most important thing. So
Absolutely.
I think that they kind of lose that sometimes.
Yeah, I think
You
it's.
know,
Go ahead, Ricky.
well, being backed by like a big publisher like Namco or Capcom or something, you're always gonna have pressure.
Yeah.
I think that's what, like when Mike Z made Skullgirls, he didn't say, I don't think he said like I made this game to make money or anything. He just said I made this game because I wanted to make a fighting game that
Yeah.
I'll like to play. I think that's what a lot of developers for all these fighting games now, they're not doing that anymore. They're trying to make
Yeah.
as much money as they can. And I think if just an independent, company just decided like, we're gonna make a new fighting game, whatever, and then they did it their own way with, because they're not gonna have any restrictions or anything like that, then it could turn out to be something amazing. But we haven't seen that, and there's a lot of loyalty in the fighting game community with like franchises,
Yeah.
like we might not get like I think there's a lot of people out there that never gave Skullgirls a chance,
Yep.
just because it's not what they like, it's not what they've what they don't know if it's a great game because they just never gave it a chance.
Okay, let me tell you this. I agree with you. But what you said, if some random guy like Mike Z makes a game and he makes it from the heart, is it possible for Namco, is it possible for Harada or the development team of the Soul Calibur franchise to do that same thing? Do you think they have the capability? Because, you said people are loyal to franchises, and I can agree with that. Skullgirls comes out, it's going to be a hard sell. While Soul Calibur 6 comes out, you already know there is a group of people that's like, yeah, for sure, Soul Calibur, let me get it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what if Namco, or what if any company, comes up with a new product and it's by the developers of, so they can kind of they can pull them in. You know how they do it. From the creators of fucking Lord of the Rings comes a new shitty movie, and all the people that like Lord of the Rings are gonna be like, dude, let me watch that shit. It's tight, right? So they could do that same thing. It's been so long since we've seen a new 3D fighting game that I have a feeling that it may never come, because at this point it's been so long that people might be afraid to even try it. It's just like weird. It hasn't happened in ages. I mean, do you think a company is capable of producing a new franchise in this day and age and it could survive? What do you think? If it's a major company, what do you think, Rip?
Blaze Blue, isn't that what happened?
Well, I mean, that is what happened, but I mean, 3D is kind of what I was leaning towards, because there are a lot of anime games, and there are a lot of anime game sequels that we don't even know about. That does happen a lot. A lot of games get created and get some support, but I'm talking more about 3D. A 3D fighting game.
I mean, I think that I would want to see it happen. I think Namco is a good company to have that happen with. They have a good 3D background, and I think another franchise for them would probably be a good thing if they can support it, with in terms of staff and development, of course. Other than that, I mean, I was thinking the only other 3D guys I would think of is Sega, and I'd rather have Namco do it. That's just how that goes.
Well, you forgot about Tecmo too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They also.
Yeah, I mean, if Tecmo changed up their strategy and said like, all right, our DOA game is our game with all these parries and stuff, let's make a game that doesn't have that, then that would be very interesting, I think.
Yeah, I can agree with that. What do you think, Rick?
I doubt it would happen with a Japanese company, because Japan, in terms of like the business model, they don't like to think outside the box. They're very straightforward and everything. And I don't think they like to take risks, unless they're like Nintendo trying to make a crazy Wii that no one's gonna buy. That's the thing that scares them away from that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I don't think they'll do anything like that. But I mean, if they really like, if Namco were to do something crazy, they could combine both teams and just say, all right, from the developers of Soul Calibur and Tekken,
Yeah,
There,
man.
here's this new game. And if they did something like that, and they were just like, you know what, let's just combine the franchises, not make a completely new one.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that could happen.
I don't know
But
if I'm the only one who felt this way. I didn't think of that before. But the moment you said, from the developers of Soul Calibur and Tekken, I kind of got slightly aroused. That sounds really cool, right?
me
That
too.
sounds like a really cool idea. Internet, I don't
Yeah.
know if you agree. But, what if they did that? What if they came up with a new franchise developed by members from, like, dope people from each team? And boom, it's out, it's new, it's fresh. I feel like that would be super sick. It's been like ages. Do we recall what the latest 3D franchise that's legit is? What's the newest franchise? Can we go by numbers? We're on Tekken 7. We're on VF5. I mean, it's like
Soul Calibur
it's
5,
been
Dead or
so
Alive,
long.
whatever.
It's been
I
so
think
long.
DOA came out after Soul Calibur. Is that right?
Yeah, Soul Edge is the first Soul Calibur, Soul Edge, then Soul
Yeah.
Calibur, then Soul Calibur 2. So these franchises are fucking old, and it's surprising if you look at them as movies, right? People love movies, But I mean, even movies run out of steam, They make 3, 4 of them. Even the biggest movies of all time,
Yeah.
they make a couple of them, and it's like, all right, we milked this cow dry. Now let's move on to some new shit. And then
God,
it's like,
someone in the chat. Ugh. No,
what?
this guy in the chat just said Naruto 3D, and that's honestly the path that all these companies would take. They'd
What do
be
you
like,
mean?
yeah, instead of making it, yeah, from the developers of Tekken and Soul Calibur, Naruto 3D Fighter.
Yeah, I guess.
They'll
That's what's
they'll
gonna happen.
piggyback off the success of something else and just make a crappy fighting game for, some
Because at least that way
cartoon.
they can justify the development cost.
Yeah, it's
You
like
know,
it's insurance.
Yep.
Let's make sure it's about Pokemon, and then boom, we'll catch someone. Yeah, it's a fucking bummer, dude. I mean, I really think that the decline in quality of fighting games has to do with the amount of risk involved for especially a 3D development team. They're getting owned. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
isn't it a nightmare putting yourselves in their shoes? Like,
Yeah.
look at the
It's
new
not a good
generation. The new generation of consoles is coming out. You don't even know what the fuck's gonna happen with that. Like, for example, look at the guys at the Killer Instinct guys, right? The task at hand is one that is not one that I would want to undertake. That is
They have to like appease the old fans of the old series.
Oh
They
my
have to appease
God.
all of the new school, like 2009ers, whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, like, how are they gonna do that?
Yeah, and on a console that doesn't even exist yet. It's
Yeah.
just like
And only exclusive on one console.
yeah, and I'm sure that exclusive on that console, it just seems like a nightmare scenario. Those guys, best of luck to you guys, man, because that is something that seems really, really hard to do. And on
Honestly, what they should do is just be like, what, screw it. Like, we're in such a bad position. F it. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do whatever we want, and you guys are gonna love it.
yeah, that's really what they should do, because if they did that, then at least they would produce a really unique product. And if it's kind of like the lotto, just like anything else, all the most popular things in the world weren't developed to be the most popular things in the world. They had to become that. They took a shot at it, and people liked it. So maybe that's what they should do, because I feel like not just the Killer Instinct guys, but perhaps all developers in this day and age look too much to the left and right, instead of looking forward. And they look at oh, look at this shit. That shit's cool. Let me put some version of that in my game. Oh, this is cool too. Another version of that in my game. Oh, it doesn't work well together. We'll allow you to combo breaker it. It's like they just keep adding layer upon layer of these artificial depth mechanics. And when you go back and play something like Soul Calibur 2 or even Tekken 3 or something really old, even though those games are fucked up and they have really bad tier situations, not Caliber 2, but like even Tekken 4, right? Terrible tier list, right? But it was so simple that the depth was actual depth. It was like the depth was produced naturally by the game system, as opposed to like being stuffed up your fucking ass by the developer. That aspect of it, that artificial depth, is something that I'm beginning to really dislike. you know, and I think that's the only way it's ever going to be again. Do you guys think they will ever go back to the old school style? What do you think, Rip?
I think that Street Fighter 4 kind of hit like they just hit it correctly basically. Like they had meters, they had ultra, they had supers, and they had the focus attacks or focus, I guess. But that was pretty much it. Like those are the four things they added, but that was like the core gameplay added on top of whatever you had in Street Fighter 2. And I think that is kind of the limit that people can go to. I don't see people really going back from that because Street Fighter 4 was so successful. But I don't like seeing games try to meet up to that standard. Like you don't have to have those four things. You
No.
could just have two things. You could have just one thing.
Or
you just,
no things. It could
I
just
think
be
I think
simple.
no thing is really risky nowadays. I mean, no things would go back too much like Street Fighter 2. I mean, and then you got to worry about like how your game's getting reviewed. Like, oh, look, this game has no thing in it. And then the reviewers say
This game
there's
has
no
no
thing in here.
I mean,
Nothing.
there's going to be things in it, but what I mean is
Yeah.
like meter types of things and clustering
Right.
of the heads-up display, like
Yeah, I mean
Go
like
ahead.
look at Killer Instinct for example. It's got meters, it's got an ultra, it's got an instinct meter, it's got the two life bars. And one thing which I really hate, like since even Injustice, like
Mhm,
I really
hate that
dislike
too.
that.
I hate that too. I think it's
Um,
old and should be gone.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that should stick around in fighting games.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean like that's a lot of system mechanics, and then the whole combo system has like its own system mechanics. Like so they have everything from other games, and then they've got this whole extra layer of systems on top of just the combo system. So it's like I feel like it's a really complicated system. That you don't necessarily need all of those pieces. I don't know, but
Let me stop you right there, because hold that thought, okay? You said
Okay.
it's a very complicated system, right? But I know for a fact they're trying to make a simple system. Isn't
Right,
that
but
funny? It's like fucking quicksand. The more you want something, the more complicated it gets. When initially it was probably very simplistic in the first
Right.
place. Anyway, go ahead.
No, yeah, and then it reminds me of Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Like Street Fighter 4 came out, it was this fairly simple game, easy to get into. There's a lot of depth for advanced players. It's got these meter things in there, it was sure, but I mean meter had existed for a while. Ultra just another layer of a super, so it's all kind of the same stuff. The focus attack was a big revolutionary change in that game. Then Street Fighter Cross Tekken comes out, and like when we were putting together the tutorial series for that game, I was like, there is like so many system
Yeah.
things to talk about, and we weren't allowed to make like a system episode. We had to do just the character ones. I'm like, how are we going to talk about these characters and what they can do? Because every 2 minutes we're going to be explaining what they can do in this system mechanic, or in this system mechanic, or in this system mechanic. Like, so it was really hard for us to do that. I thought that game had way too many system things that just took away from the gameplay part of just the fighting game.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. What do you think, Ricky?
I yeah, the more gimmicks and more things like that, I think those kind of things are supposed to try to appeal to players that were never part of weren't following the game. Like I think Street Fighter 4 was kind of interesting because it went back to bringing all the old characters to Street Fighter 2, so you get all those old people back, and then you get the new players that see not only the old characters, but they see ultras and all these other cool combos and all this kind of shit. So it's like I feel like you need some of those things just to kind of bring in the new players, but you don't need. But when you try to use those things to make it like a competitive fighting game, that's when it becomes kind of sketchy,
Yeah, I can agree with that. Let me make a clear difference though on the two things that are kind of in this context. So on the one hand, you have things like ultras and supers and things like that are okay, reasonable. You have a 2D fighting game, you want supers, you want some kind of mechanic like that. But what I'm talking about is the really bullshit stuff. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, for example, first attack scoring a free meter. Why does that even need to exist? Let's not even talk about whether or not we like it. What is the purpose of that? Is it adding some kind of depth to the game? And if the answer is yes, is that depth and that type of depth necessary? Like, how would the game be without that? Those are the questions I'm asking. Or look at Soul Calibur 5, right? They had that weird reverse rage shit where if you're almost dead at this certain part of the life bar, you have to use moves that do more than a certain amount of damage, or else those moves do half damage. So what it ends up doing is making the end of the round like you have to take a larger risk to kill your opponent. Now, think about that for a second. Someone thought, okay, we got this game, we got these life bars, now let's just fuck up the end of every match by adding this dumb shit. It's like, did that need to exist? Is that 100% a necessity in the release of your game? That's what I'm talking about. Or even in the context of Killer Instinct, what about the breaker for the breaker type of stuff? These extra layers on the combo system that, are they really a necessity? Isn't less more when it comes to stuff like this? That's what I'm thinking. To me, basically, my point is there are two types of system features. There are ones that are integral, even if we don't like them, like let's say an ultra comeback mechanic, or X Factor. Something like X Factor has to exist in a game like Marvel 3 because as soon as you touch a character, they're dead. So the game needs to allow one character to beat three, and that's how they did it. X Factor allows one character to beat three characters, so the match is never one-sided. Now, that is a pivotal thing that needed to exist for that game to be released. But these other things are bullshit. First attack giving you 1 meter? What the fuck is that, dude? What is that? It doesn't even...
It adds a Yomi layer to the start of a match.
Yeah, but is that a Yomi layer that they needed to really stuff all the way into your ass? Or could they have just been like, hey, add the Yomi layers yourself. You'll figure it out. You guys are smart.
They definitely could have done that. And, I think with Mortal Kombat 9, I bet you that was a testing round. Because remember, there was that code you could put in, and sometimes there was that. I think there was one, like, first it doesn't give meter or something. Am I wrong about that?
I don't know about combat codes, so...
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, though. And so they kind of give players an out, in case they thought that was stupid or something. I don't remember. But, point is, that they kind of had a testing round. They decided to keep it for some reason.
Yeah, but it's not even specifically that. I just think these types of little sprinkles that they add onto a already complete game, what they're thinking is that it's adding depth. Like, this is adding new Yomi layers to the start of the match. But really, who gives a fuck? If your game is solid, you don't need to do that. And I don't want people to mistake like I said, this is not like something like X Factor or Ultras or even Rage in Tekken Tag 2. Those things are like, okay, it's a part of the system. This is how they designed the game. But the little fucking stupid shit like the, reverse rage in Caliber 5 or the first attack stuff, and there are tons more too that I can't think of like, for example, Injustice's wager system. That adds a ton of life bar management, a ton of meter management, and all kinds of shit. But is it really 100% necessary? Is this depth that it adds to the game? Is it depth that the game needs? Is the game going to be empty without it? That's what I'm wondering. What do you guys think? Could it have not been in the game? Ricky?
Of course, things could not have been in the game, and the game would have been just fine. It's just, I think they're trying to put a Band-Aid over something that they feel like, well, this part of the game doesn't seem right. So instead of trying to fix the first layer of everything, they just add another layer on there to hide it, to suppress the main problem.
And that goes back to deadlines.
Well, I don't know if there's like necessarily even problems that need to be dealt with, etc., or band-aids that need to be covered, whatever. But I think that specifically to the clash system, it makes the game more interesting because in Mortal Kombat 9 it was like a combo breaker. So they kept combo breakers in Injustice, but they gave this meter management on top of it of whether you want to take their life or get life back, etc. And I think in this game specifically, where they have like this DC license, whatever, they have like an opportunity to use like the characters, to speak, etc.
Likenesses,
and yeah. So I think that this game actually needed it, and I think that it was a good decision.
Okay, that's reasonable, and that's the question, and that's the question I want developers to ask at the last minute, like not even at the last minute, just in the brainstorming session, like, do we need these things to exist, and it's like these days there are so many of them, like you said, Street Fighter Cross Tekken was just so mashed full of all kinds of stuff, that you almost think like, fuck, what happened to back in the day when I put a quarter in and I know when I'm winning and I know when I'm losing and fucking there's 55 seconds left on the clock and watch out for that ring. There's alligators in the water. You don't want to go in there. Fucking simple as that. And people were loving that shit. And I think they would love it today too. It's the same fucking people. In fact, they're lazier. People are fucking lazy. I'm telling you, this is a great example. Clockwork, he would play Soul Calibur 2 only because he had to wait in line, right? So he would sit down and play Soul Calibur 2. But I knew he didn't really like it that much. He just was like, I don't have shit to do. Cell phones don't exist yet. Let's fucking play the game that's next to me, right? And when I would explain it to him, the only reason he was just even not falling asleep was that it was so simple. He didn't have to learn how to do all these fucking alpha counters and, cross rush and all kinds of stuff. He didn't have to learn all that stuff. It was just life bar and fucking timer. And that was enough for him to stay interested, And that really says a lot, I mean, my big message, I guess, is to the developers who are perhaps going to hear or watch this. I hope that you guys know that less can be a lot more when it comes to the development of a fighting game. These last-minute sprinkles or layers that, as Rickstah put it, are totally unnecessary. You can have faith in your design and in your system to not have to add these bullshit things that I fucking hate so much, like especially the reverse rage. I always thought that was just like, what the fuck, dude? It was just that's the same guy who invented that thought of the Snoop Dogg idea in Tekken Tag 2. It's the same guy. You know what? Let's get Snoop Dogg. I got a great idea. Let's put reverse rage. I'm telling you, it was the same fucking guy. It was a stupid idea.
Wait, let me talk about that real quick. I mean, not the Snoop Dogg thing, because I don't know anything about that. But the reverse rage, I'm like, I assume that the idea behind it must have been something along the lines of like, this will make, like, fighting games are interesting at the end of the life bars when there's very little life left, someone's gonna die, whatever, so they're like, let's make it harder to kill someone, that way the end of a round will be more exciting, so it'll increase like the excitement in the game. And then I started thinking like maybe with the first meter thing, when we play a game, first hit of the match doesn't really matter. Like, who cares? Like, just go do whatever. You can still win the match afterwards, So let's put this extra thing on it, like, so first it gets meter. Now they got to try, like, it makes the game more interesting right from the get-go, every round. So, I don't know. I think those are the type of ideas.
What that says to me is, it's just like, if I'm eating a plain hot dog, if I'm not confident that it's gonna taste good, I'm gonna put some relish and sauerkraut on it. It's like they're putting sauerkraut on their hot dog. They don't have to. It's just good with mustard. That's what I'm saying. That last minute effort that you're talking about that perhaps will make the beginning of the round more exciting. Why does the beginning of the round need to be more exciting than it already is the way you develop the game? That's what I mean. It doesn't add up. That's probably what they're thinking, but it doesn't add up. What do you think, Ricky, about that?
I was just trying to think of it in the basketball terms. Like, maybe in the first quarter, the first basket is worth 10 points.
So that's what I'm saying, dude. Yes.
And then the fourth quarter, whoever's leading, every shot they make is only worth half a point.
Half a point. It's harder to come back.
It's like what? It's like it might make the game interesting.
Yeah.
But come on, man. Really?
It's like the XFL, dude. It's like the XFL. We already have fighting games, and now they got the LA Extreme over here with the players that are only get played when they're only getting paid when they score a touchdown, and the referees are also cameramen and shit. It's like, yeah, that's exciting, that's sick, but it's fucking stupid, That's cool for 5 minutes, but it's stupid. Or think about Soul Calibur 5. I just remembered another one in Soul Calibur 5. So you have meters, right? Cool, I like that idea. I'm open-minded. You go down 2 rounds, your opponent gets full bar. What the fuck is that, dude? What the fuck is that? I mean, it's like, obviously there is logic behind it. And they thought, well, they were looking at Marvel. They were looking at Marvel and they're like, okay, we want you to be able to come back from a 2-0 round deficit, so we give you this meter to work with. But in my mind, I don't understand why they would not have the confidence in their game producing that without these artificial sprinkles on top. And what that tells me, Rip, and we've talked about this in the past, what that tells me is the deadlines have a lot to do with this. I think what happens is, so if you look at the timeline in the development of a fighting game, you have the ideas, then you have whatever, and it gets to a certain point where you have something that's playable. And at that point, when you have play testers play it, they say this and that. They say, hey, I don't like this combo, I don't like this and that. Then they're like, okay, how do we fix it? We've already gone this far. Xbox One is coming out on this date. We can't go back. We can't go back now. We've already committed. So we have to solve this problem. We have to fix it. And The fixes usually end up being more layers on the lasagna, and it's kind of like one of those things where it's not even good lasagna in the first place. It's not going to be better if you make it twice as tall. It just doesn't taste good. If it's, you don't need it to be that deep. It could just be a regular lasagna. If it tastes good, it's going to taste good. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think it has a lot to do with money. That's really what I think it all revolves around.
Yeah, it's the whole development process, I think, and yeah, in terms of money and deadlines, all those things together, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it really goes full circle back to what I was initially saying. I do not envy these guys. Perhaps it was some of their dreams growing up. Like, my dream is to make a fighting game, or my dream is to develop a game that everyone will love. I have these ideas. But it's unfortunate that when it comes time for those dreams to come to fruition, these guys are getting owned. They can't make their dream come. There's all these deadlines, there's all this pressure, and so what do you do when you're under pressure? What do you do when you're under pressure? When I was going to college and I was under pressure and I had to fucking do a speech tomorrow morning, what do? I look on the internet for some other dude that's done a speech and I get ideas from it. Ooh, I like that idea. I'm going to put that in my speech. Oh, wait a minute. When the speech is almost over, every word does 50% damage. I'm putting that in my speech. It's like, that's naturally what humans do when they're fucked. When you're fucked, you go and find some shit that someone else has already done that's cool, and you fucking do it again. It's like, it's just the history of mankind. You find the easy way to get your job done. And unfortunately, the games are really showing that's what's going on. At this point, I feel like every fighting game that comes out is like my speech class. Every time it's like some cram session where it needs to be finished after it's launched, and there needs to be all kinds of community feedback. I can't fucking stand that. I can't stand all that community shit. I wish developers would not listen to the community ever again. The inclusion of the community in the development process has been a cancer to the development of fighting games, in my opinion. What do you guys think about that? Ricky?
I like that comment, but go on.
I think it depends. If they're gonna look at it, like when they're trying to, like if Harada's looking at all the comments he's seen from Tag 2 or whatever, everything, and then he just applies everything that he's heard to Tekken 7, that's terrible. But if he takes like all the suggestions he hears about in Tag 2 and then makes Tag 2 plus or whatever and adds it, then then it might be not so bad. It'll probably still suck because no one's smart in the community, but it's just it could be good, it could be bad. But when you're applying something like that to a new game, it's just a terrible idea.
I totally think it is. What do you think, Rip?
I think you have to. There's obviously a bunch more morons in the world than there are smart people in the world.
Yes.
So when you listen to a community, obviously you're gonna get a bunch of trash along with the good stuff. So
yeah,
they have to be really selective and pick the right information, obviously. And that's not an easy task, I bet, because there's just so much now. It's just
right?
With Twitter and forums and everything, like it's just there's so much information out there. I don't even understand how they could, pull all the good stuff only. Like there's just so much to digest.
Okay, well, let me give you an example. Let's bring it down to scale, right? That we can all relate to. So, testyourmight.com, right? It's the #1 resource for NRS games. #1 resource.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna say #1 resource for something else.
Well, I'm getting to it. Right? So, I played Mortal Kombat. I participated in that website a lot. And then, what's it called? Injustice came out. You know where to go. Testyourmight.com. Now, there are a lot of intelligent people on Test Your Might who actually want to share information and have discussions and be intelligent. But there is such a unbelievable sea of retards that goes to that site that I was just intimidated. I was like, well, I don't even know who to trust. These comments, like let's say I saw a post by some person who's, okay, this is a good post, intelligent. 2 posts later, this guy's saying some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life, and I'm thinking, man, 5 minutes ago, I thought that guy was sick. So imagine if you're the developer. You go over to testyourmight.com, and you're like, whoa, what are these morons talking about? It's just crazy. I don't even want to repeat some of the stuff that I have seen. And it's not just Test Your Might. It's every forum. I didn't want to single out one. You go to any Tekken Zaibatsu, you go to Shoryuken is probably one of the biggest, and all of the forums, any gaming
Tekken
forum,
Academy.
yeah, you're going to get just an unbelievable sea of bad ideas. And I'm not saying that my ideas are necessarily better or worse. I agree that developers shouldn't even listen to competitive players because they're warped, dude. Everyone's warped. Do you think, you guys know Chris G by now. He's very skilled, talented player. And, at this point, would you want someone like Chris G in charge? I mean, or someone like anyone, and you pick it, Tom Brady, or Tom Brady's a nut job, he's a friend of ours, but he's crazy, he's crazy, or any one of them, you pick any one of them, they're all crazy. You have to be crazy to some extent to be good at these fighting games. It doesn't, normal, everyday, average people don't become top level players. Something's gotta be weird about you, it's just, because you have to dedicate so much of your life to get to that point. There's no arguing that that's the recipe for a great player. Now, maybe the same type of brilliant you have to be a great player is not the same as to be a great developer. And I think the more you involve the community, the more you're getting these guys who don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. They're good at playing the games. They're not good at making the games. And we're seeing that. Look at the results. The game quality has gone down, and I don't think I'm the only one in the world who thinks this. Across the board, I think the game quality has gone down. What do you guys think about that statement? What do you think, Rip?
I don't know. I think that in Tekken specifically, I think the game quality has gone up. Tag 2, there's just like a couple programming bugs, I think, or just, I don't know, polish. I don't know what it is. But I mean, Tag 2 I think is good except for those stupid wall combo situations, like side wall splat, no tag crash.
Unreliable combo system. I can agree with that.
Okay, so I mean, but I think that in general, the quality of Tekken has gone up overall.
Okay, but
so
what about...
I don't think that across the board that is what I'm saying.
Okay, so do you agree with any other games? Do you feel like the current, let's say, Soul Calibur or Virtua Fighter or...
Well, Soul Calibur has definitely fallen off. Okay. I mean, it's almost like they get like a... I don't even understand what's going on with Soul Calibur, but I just feel like every couple of games they're like, you know what, dude? You take over this game and do what you want with it.
They're just passing it around. I know, man.
They're looking at like, what's Fuller's moves? Why is this move with this button? Let's just switch that around.
Yeah, and every time it's a new guy too. I just started to like Daishi Odashima, and now it's some new guy. Exactly. I can't handle this. I need one guy. At least Harada's been the same guy this whole time. Yeah. But who knows? Maybe he'll disappear too. It's really hard to tell what's gonna happen. And back in the day when we didn't have any connection with these guys, I didn't even know Harada was around back then. I didn't even know who he was. He was a name in the credits, right? But now he exists. You can hit him up and you can get a response from him. That's fucking unbelievable, right? But look at what it's become. These games, even though I agree with you that the overall quality of Tekken is good, I feel like because of the crunch right now and because of the comments, these people are human. Harada is a human being. And it's hard to look at Twitter and look at all these comments and suggestions and not have them stick in your mind. And then let's say, okay, 40 retards on Twitter suggested something, right? And you think, boy, that's a shitty idea. Good thing I don't listen to Twitter. Then you go to the office and you have a brainstorming session, and one of the chumps in the brainstorming session says, hey, maybe this is a good idea. And Harada goes, oh, well, 40 retards said that was a good idea. Maybe it is a good idea. Boom. Snoop Dogg it is. Make the phone call. Let's make it happen. This is what I'm talking about. The community does sway the developer's opinion. And whether or not they really are listening to, like the NetherRealms guys too. They're all really cool dudes. They're nice guys. And when I went up to them, they were like, man, what's up, dude? And I was just talking to them, and they were like, man, everyone's got an opinion. I mean, as soon as they talked to anyone, they were like, man, you got to fix Flash's left foot. You got to fix Scorpion's fucking whatever. Everyone's got some shit. Face. Yeah, everyone's got some shit to complain about, and that's something they want, And of those 100 probably more than 100 suggestions they got, I'm sure they're going to remember a couple, and I'm sure a few of them are going to get done, you know? And who's to say if those are good ideas or not? You know, that's what I don't like. I want it to be like an art form. I want it to go back to the way it was, you know, back in the day.
Maybe the developers aren't confident in themselves enough that they feel that they have to reach out. You know, like, hey, you know, we don't really know much about fighting games, and we want a character that's similar to this type of a character. Let's get some people in here who play these games, and they can tell us or guide us along the right path.
You know, I think there is what you said there definitely has some weight to it. And I think one thing that's probably true is back in the day when they were developing a fighting game, since they didn't have anyone to the left and to the right to steal from, they had to steal from other shit, right? Other competitive things. So the reason perhaps that the fighting game scene was so simplistic as far as system mechanics were because there was nothing to copy. So what they did was they took the concept of one-on-one strategy or one-on-one warfare or any kind of oppositional one-on-one activity, even chess, and they tried to apply it to fighting, right? And these are the natural organic things that came to your mind when you convert this strategy into fighting, fist fighting, you know? So maybe these developers can look back and look, you know, read the Book of Five Rings, you know, read the Art of War and understand the concepts of fighting and winning and strategy and work from there instead of starting in the year 2013 with these, you know, to the left you got Marvel, to the right you got Injustice and NRS and all these other whatever, you know, all these weird things. Why do you even need to look that direction? I want developers to look forward, progressive, and believe in yourselves. I mean, you guys are talented individuals. Let's look just at even a game that's like not quite ready to impress, right? Like Killer Instinct, right? It's not complete yet. They're working on it. They're developing and I love that they're showing it everywhere they can and getting lots of, you know, like people to play it and stuff. But look at a game like that. You know, they're talented. They were able to create this shit, right? It's impressive. You know, it has 6 buttons. It does what they want it to do. It's able to be shown to players like you two and myself. But for some reason, it seems like they don't have the confidence to just make it themselves. Like a song. You know, when you're writing a song, you don't hit up your fucking fans and be like, hey, fans, do you like this guitar solo? You don't do that. You don't do that. It's stupid. You know, it's stupid. I got this song ready to go, but let me put out a play test of this song and see how you like it and give me some feedback on where you want the fucking boom drum rolls and shit. That's the dumbest fucking idea ever, you know? But then this is what they're doing now. You know, this is what is going to happen with Tekken and all the future games, and I don't like it. That's what I'm getting at. Anyway, do you guys have anything to add to that topic, Ricky?
Well, I mean, I was actually just thinking, sorry, but you're talking about how you wish they would just make their own game, and I feel like with everything we've talked about tonight, it's hitting me now that, you know, KI, the new one, really is looking to the left and looking to the right. Like the old KI, it didn't have meter, you know, it didn't have like it had ultra, sure, you know, but it's the way it is in this current one. But I mean, they really, you know, instinct meter, for example, with the trait in Injustice, it's similar, you know, like I don't feel like necessarily they just took, here's the old Killer Instinct, how would this be in the current generation? You know, like let's grab these pieces and put them into Killer Instinct and let's see how that comes out. You know, I feel like that's what they did instead of like Killer Instinct. How do we advance Killer Instinct to Killer Instinct 3? And that was the other interesting thing that I thought about before. This is not Killer Instinct 3. This is Killer Instinct. It's almost like this is, if Killer Instinct were released today, this is what it would be. It's not Killer Instinct 3, you know?
Well, look at Mortal Kombat 9. That's also the same theory, right? It is kind of like a re-release. So they didn't call it Mortal Kombat 9. They called it Mortal Kombat. And I agree with what you said earlier. I really like how the guys from NetherRealms, they just say, go fuck yourself. It's our rules. Check these rules out. This jumping, not an overhead. This fucking this and that. I mean, the rules. Mortal Kombat 9 really was like a huge fuck you to everyone who doesn't want to conform. You know,
Yep.
Yeah,
I
Mortal
mean,
Kombat was just a backward
Trade
Street
hit.
Fighter.
crazy trading hits, double KOs. We never heard of it. You know, fuck double KOs. We're gonna make our own rules. And you know what? In one sense, you can really respect that. They had a vision,
Yeah.
and they put it to use. They made it happen, and it was very successful. It was a big, huge comeback. It did was there were Mortal Kombat players, of course, driving that game, but who's to say that that can't happen? I agree. Anyway, where you can continue, Rip, as you were saying.
No, that was it. That was it.
Okay, and Ricky, do you have anything to add to that topic?
Well, I mean, I felt like if any like the I look at Tekken 4 as like the main like game that we can look back on and say like, well, that was like they were trying to reset the entire series. Tekken 4 is the game that stands out the most out of all the Tekkens, right?
Absolutely.
I wonder. I'm actually. It feels like the reason why Tekken 4 was hated so much was because it was so different, and I think that scares a lot of like even people like any other developer now. That's like it scares them from trying to do something different because so many people like it the way it was, and I think if Tekken even if Tekken 7 is a complete reset, it's gonna be looked down upon by a lot of the Tekken community because they're like it's not Tekken, it's not what we remember, and they're gonna get criticism. But if they do, they just gotta roll with it. They gotta say, you know what, well, screw you guys. This is Tekken 7, like it, and if you don't, well, Tekken 8 is gonna look a lot like Tekken 7 or even more crazy. So they gotta just kind of almost like I kind of wish like Harada would just get off of Twitter.
I know. Turn that fucking thing off for a day, man. Make a game. But something that
come up for like 5 years.
yeah, really. But something that you said, I agree with. And the thing is, so these games, repeat what you said. You fucking distracted me. What did you say?
Something about Tekken 4 and how it's a reset.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Tekken 4, the reason I think it was so hated is not because it was different. I think the reason it was hated is because they made it different by taking away. People don't like taking away, They like freedom. People like freedom. And I don't mean removing moves and removing characters. I mean removing system mechanics. Removing that is bad. To me, the Soul Calibur equivalent of Tekken 4 is Soul Calibur 3 because it came after such a great game and it was so shitty. It came out straight to console, and it was a console that could not be patched via the internet because it was before its time. And so what you got was what you got, riddled with bugs, system mechanics that were very restrictive. Movement was patched in a way that was like super restrictive, and that trend traveled all the way to Soul Calibur 5. And I think people don't like it when you take things away from them. Look at Tekken 4. They took away backdash. They took away back jump. They took away a ton of shit. They took away the one throw. Yeah, the one throw removed. Some characters couldn't even throw in that game because they had no mix-up unless the wall was nearby. I mean, it was like, taking things away is really the worst idea. I personally think, and I'm confident in this, that if you create a new Tekken and it's completely new, as long as it maintains the system mechanics, the core system mechanics, you will maintain your community. Your fan base will stay. But the surface will be new, new models, new wall system, stuff like that. At least the feel of the game, or as Rip likes to call it, the fun of the game, because really that's really what it is. When you sit down and control it, whether you win or lose, the way it feels to manipulate your character is what's fun. The feel of the game. Does it feel fun? And that can be accomplished without taking things away. Like knee-jerk reactions and taking shit away is always what fucks up a series. Tekken 4, they saw Tekken Tag and all the backdashing and the time-ups, and they were like, okay, we got to cut that out. No more backdashing. We'll add a wall. Fucking take that away. It's never going to happen again. Want. Everyone hates it, right? So look on the other end, Soul Calibur, right? In Soul Calibur 2, everyone was doing step guard, so it was very safe to move at a high level. Also, poking was very prevalent. Something like Yoshimitsu's standing A on block into down A was a very good poke string. So they were like, we don't like that. We don't want safe poking, and we don't want free movement, freedom of movement. So they took out freedom of movement by removing step guard and removing step completely in part 3, and then they added all these counter hits. Look at what happens. People are restricted. Nobody likes that shit. I mean, that's basically my point. Don't take things away and don't necessarily add unnecessary shit on top. Just create something new while maintaining the feel of your game. That's what I think. And they could have done that with KI. You know, make it feel like a game that people want to play. No need to over-complexify it. It's just fucking... It'll be complex in itself. There's a reason why old-ass fucking people still play ST. You know, because the game is so simple, the complexity comes from the players. You can have two morons playing who all they're doing is mashing on moves, and then you can have two people like fucking Jason Cole and Mike Watson playing, and the complexity is there based on their hands. Their hands are producing the complexity. And, you know, that's what I miss. That's basically what I miss in fighting games.
You know, but you said you compared Tekken 4 and Soul Calibur 3, right? I think the main issue as to why those games were hated so much might not be because, well, obviously, yeah, the system mechanics that they took away and all the, and you know, everything they tried to do with the games kind of sucked, but it also followed up. They both followed up great games. Tag 1 was you know, well received everywhere. Same thing with Soul Calibur 2. At this point right now, you know, Soul Calibur 5. Some people like it, some people don't like it. You know, I'm kind of indifferent on it. Tag 2, some people love it, some people hate it. You know, I think in this kind of situation, now is the time where you just have to go, all right, well, you know, not everyone's going to love this, and not everyone's going to like, or, you know, but you just have to take the risk and go for it, you know, because I agree with you, though, that you can't take away too much of the game to make it, like, not feel like Tekken or Soul Calibur. But you don't have to add so much to make it, you know, to make it crazier than it already is. Like, if Tekken 7 removed bounds and all that, I would support it 100%. Just like how Tekken Revolution did, you know? I think it's some things like that don't need to exist. Like, bounds didn't need to exist, but they threw it in there. I think if they took it out, I'd be okay with that. I think most people would be, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Just the existence of bound is really like a total unnecessary thing. Like, what is it even for? I like it. I mean, I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for tech traps and offense and Oki and whatever. But is it really necessary? Especially when you go back and play Revolution. It's like, I guess it's really not that necessary. I mean, you're pretty much doing very similar shit without that added system mechanic. It's one less thing that if I were making a tutorial for Tekken Revolution, it's one less thing I got to talk about. And less is more. Because as the shorter that system mechanics video is, the better it will be for a new player. People don't like to sit there and fucking have to go through a class like it's fucking getting your driver's license, you know? It's bullshit. You should just be able to turn it on and play. And back in the day when Clockwork was interested in Calibur 2, that's what it was. You fucking put your coin in and any moron could see the life bar and the sword. Okay, I got a sword. You know, it's made for hitting the other guy, and he has a life bar. Boom, you know how to play. Simple as that, you know, and that's what I think people should look at, developers more specifically.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of depth behind that game. I was watching your tutorial, and that game was way deeper than I ever thought it was.
Well, and isn't that funny? And, you know, I really, in that tutorial, I tried to go from just scratch to, like, tournament level. And I think without editing, the fact that I got it to, like, 45 minutes is a miracle. Because if you were to, like, have editing skills like the way you did those old level up your games, because, you know, I went back and I told you that. I couldn't believe how hard it would have been to edit that. I was thinking I would edit that tutorial, right, to show exactly what I was talking about when I was talking about it, like the way you did with the old level up your game shit. And I was thinking, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck this completely. There is no way I'm going to spend my entire, like, weeks and weeks of time doing that for no reason. And so anyway, my point is that it's a simple system, and without editing, I mean, if you were to do a system tutorial for Soul Calibur 2, you could probably do it in 20 minutes. Boom. Easy to do. And that's what I mean. You could do that with new games. If a new game were to come out that had easy system like that, I would love it. Especially if it were a 3D game, more specifically a Soul Calibur or Tekken, or even that Magic Boner game that we were talking about, developed by the creators of both. You know, let's get a new game.
I was like, what is he talking
What the
about?
hell's a Magic
I don't
Boner
remember
game?
making a boner game.
Dude, look, I'm telling you, as soon as he said that, I thought that would be sick, and I never thought of it. All they would have to do is say that in the marketing, developed by the creators of Soul Calibur and Tekken. Two franchises.
I mean, I've been trying to say this for a while. Hold on.
Go ahead.
But Tekken 7, I really meant it when I said that I hope it doesn't come out for like 5 years. I hope that they go with Tekken Revolution, keep that as the current Tekken, and just keep going with it. Like, treat it like League of Legends, add 100,000 characters to it, pull it over to PS4 so it stays current, whatever. You know what I mean? Maybe Xbox One will pick it up too, hopefully. You know, whatever. I think that there is a good path with that game that they can continue on. And then Tekken 7, you know, after a while, like, because Tekken Revolution, it is like a step away, but it's still very similar to Tekken 6 and Tekken Tag 2, you know?
Very, yeah.
But so I think that Tekken 7 could be drastically different after that game has, you know, taken this ride for a couple of years even.
Yeah, it's possible.
That's all.
You know, there's another thing that is possible. What if Tekken Revolution is the game? So, okay, we talked about how Tekken games cannibalize themselves, right? So maybe they came out with this game so that they can continually support it, so that the next game that is a Tekken game doesn't cannibalize it, because it's so different. Tekken Revolution is not a versus game. It's an online-only game with a lot of weird things in it, like fluff, level up, you know, RPG elements and stuff. But it's not quite the type of game that I think would kill or be killed by another Tekken. Am I right? Can we agree on that? Like, let's say Tekken Cross Street Fighter comes out, right? I can still see a lot of people playing Tekken Revolution, especially if they continue to support it and it remains an online-only non-versus game, you know, non-local versus.
It depends on how they make Tekken Cross Street Fighter available to the public. I think that they probably want to do the free-to-play for that thing. But I think
that would be
that's
awesome, but I don't think they would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the direction that most fighting games should take. To be honest, is the free to play. I mean, that's a whole nother subject, anyways. But I mean, if they made a new Tekken and it was free to play, obviously, I think that would kill the Tekken. But I don't think that would be necessarily a bad thing, though.
That it would kill it?
Yeah, just because it's you know, it'd be just another version of like that game. You know, it's gonna be, you know, still what it is. Well, actually, no, it would be a little bit different because you need like offline versus too and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, this may be like a way for them to not kill themselves. You know, making two different almost platforms. It's like they re-released an arcade-only game, except it's online, which is Revolutions, and then there's the not arcade-only console game, which is Tekken Tag 2, and potentially the next Tekken. You know, what are your thoughts on that, Rip?
I missed it. What the hell's going on?
Do you think... Stop reading the chat, dude. They're distracting.
Ricky's saying he's writing shit now. I'll go on.
Well, Charles said I was wrong.
Well, you're probably wrong. But
I'm right about everything, dude.
No, I mean, just in the context of cannibalizing themselves. You know, perhaps their Revolutions is such a weird, twisted model without an offline versus mode that they're trying to not cannibalize themselves so that they can have multiple Tekkens in the limelight. Maybe you'll have Tekken Revolution, maybe you'll have another Tekken at the same time because they're not even really competing. One is free and a shitload of people will play it that don't even want to play Tekken. I know a guy that comes to the arcade, his name's Jose. He doesn't own any of the Tekken games, doesn't even give a shit about Tekken. He heard it's free. He's like, dude, I've been on that Mokujin rush. Dude, he's gold, man. Boom! You know, like, it's like, you know, this exists, man. A lot of people, they don't even give a fuck about Tekken, but they're on Tekken Revolutions because it's free. Yeah. So those people are going to keep playing it even if another Tekken comes out that they don't give a fuck about. Or maybe they will give a fuck about it, you know? So it's a good idea overall, and I really do think it could be what we were originally talking about. This may be an answer to not killing your own franchise with sequels.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to see Tekken Revolution just keep going and see the Namco team work on something else after Tekken Cross Street Fighter. Like, cause we know at least that that's the next one, right? And we haven't really heard, I don't think, anything about Tekken 7, right?
Yeah, not even
Yeah,
mention of it, other than
right,
probably it will exist in the future.
right. So I hope that they just roll the Tekken Revolution wagon for a while. I mean, would offline mode be so bad other than killing their money that's coming in?
I think it would be really bad. I think it would be really bad for that game because I think the game is designed to be kind of weird and like RPG elements and like, free, I mean, if you make it versus, it kind of blows the whole thing, doesn't it? Like, it's
Yeah, I
fucking
don't know.
gay. It's going to ruin everything.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the main thing I see is if they make it, if they put an offline versus, then people would still have to pay to play online, but not pay to play offline against each other. That's just weird.
It just wouldn't work, I don't think. Not with
Yeah.
this model.
Like I have to pay for a worse experience online against other people. That's what I'm paying for, just to play the other people.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
When I got a friend right next to me and we could play
Yeah.
offline, it just wouldn't work
Yeah.
with this design, with this model. And I think, and I've said it on my stream before, but my favorite part of Tekken Revolution is that there is no versus mode because
Yeah.
it makes online actually fun. Because it's not like something where I could have done this offline. Because there is no offline. You're only used to this shitty lag, this shitty fucking thing that pisses you off otherwise. And it's like, boom, this is the way it is. This is the way it's presented to you. So I think it's really cool from a personal standpoint. I just don't love the RPG elements, as you mentioned before. They're working on it, but
I
haven't
think they'll
really-
patch it continually. At least, I mean, I don't know how many patches they plan to do, but I assume there'll be more. And I think that will continue to patch it if they do continue to patch the game.
Yeah, I hope so too. Basically, to wrap up that topic, I think that I hope everyone who's watching or even gets, catches wind of this show, check out Tekken Revolution, support it because I think it's really going to be pivotal towards the next game. The success of Tekken Revolution is important. So it's free. Just pick it up, download it, play it for a little while, see if you like it, whatever, support it. Secondarily, Soul Calibur 2, I know it's a ways off, but I'm super amped up about it, and support that too. It's coming out in fall. I don't know when. Fall is like really fucking soon, right? Isn't fall in
it's like
September?
2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, summer ends in September, so it could be as early as next month. Who knows? And the way they launched Tekken Revolution was like, hey, amigo, look in your
Tomorrow.
mailbox. You already got it. You already own this shit. Let's announce it, and you already own it. So it could happen. Something like that could happen. It's out next Tuesday. Boom. Which I think is a shitty idea in the first place. You got to hype a game up, So make people wait a little bit. But anyway, either way. So yeah, I think it's pretty close to that time. Do you guys have bitches ready to go? Man, you guys always fuck this up, dude.
Let me go. I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
Wow, you want to go?
No, I'm thinking. Go on. Bitch.
You guys can't just call each other bitches, man. Get creative.
Well, damn. All right. Well, my bitch call. Well, if I can't call everyone like you guys bitches, because I was gonna call you a bitch, Aris, because you fucked me up yesterday, and I'm pissed about that one still.
Dude, you played really shitty against me. Like, what was
Dude,
going
I
on
know,
in your
like-
head? Were you looking
Oh,
at
that's the way you're
flowers? You
supposed.
played the way I play when I look at flowers.
Dude, no, I don't know what the hell it was, man. It's just like I was getting so frustrated with the dumb shit you were doing, and it was getting away with all this garbage.
All I did when I was playing you was I was thinking, let him attack first. Let him attack first. I kept
I
thinking
know,
that.
just
And you
which is
kept
dumb
doing
because-
it. You kept doing it over and over. I was like, sick. I don't even have to fucking worry about this. Go ahead, amigo. Give me the ticket. Go ahead.
It was fucking dumb too because I was thinking in my head, "Don't attack, you idiot! Don't attack!"
He wants you to attack first. Don't attack. Don't. Yeah.
God, I got so pissed after that one. So yeah, you're a bitch for that one. I'll get you next week.
Okay. I like that bitch calling. Rip.
Man, I'm gonna call just Frame James a bitch. Number 2 because
I think he's the leading candidate for the most bitch calling in this show.
wow. Well, it's because today, I mean, we were supposed to mourn everybody with Yoshimitsu today, but
Oh,
then
yeah.
I was sleeping, and
Tight.
then he also. But the main problem was his headphone didn't work and his PC didn't work either, so he couldn't even have been on the show. So that's why he didn't comment to wake me up.
AGE.
He's not sponsored by them right now. And but the number one reason I'm calling him a bitch is because I cannot beat the guy anymore in Tekken. I don't know what the hell it is, man. I just cannot beat him. Like, and I don't even think it's that I can't beat him. I think it's just that he beats me. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, and I got news for you, man. The reason you can't beat him is because he loves Tekken Tag 2 and you don't. You can't be good at something you don't love, man. I mean, that's how I feel about it, at least. It's really hard to be really, really fucking good at some shit that you don't really, truly love. And I know for a fact the guy lived with me for a while. That guy thought about Tekken when he was jerking off, and you know it. Every time. I mean, that
Yo,
shit was...
that's all the Caribbean was, dude.
Non-stop. I mean, that guy... If he's at the beach, he's... still thinking about Tekken. He wants to take Tekken home with him that night, back to his room that night, you know? So it's all about that guy loves that shit. And I respect him for that. You know, it shows. You know, he really loves the game. He really trains hard. And, dude, I've never heard you once go like, man, that guy, James, dude, losing sleep. I mean, that guy fucking, you know, whatever. You losing sleep over an opponent, you know, that doesn't happen that much for you guys. But James was like, man, as soon as the tournament was over at 3 a.m., he's like, how do I beat this shit, you know, with this pad?
Dude.
And it's like, what's up? Go ahead.
No. That's exactly what happened at VXG. Like, I lost to Fuko on day one. He lost to Fighting GM, so we had to play in losers final or losers the next day, whatever. But he was like, I was like, I lost Fuko, whatever. I'm at the beach. He was like, God damn it, I should have played more. Like, and then he made his girlfriend record his matches, and he went back to the hotel room and like studied them that night, you know, like, and he just practiced all night long. And then the next day he just beat the crap out of GM, you know, like. He should have been 3-0, but he made it, you know. 3-2
Remember
'cause he
what
didn't
I
make it
said
interesting.
earlier about how it doesn't take the same skills to be a great player as it does to make a great game? Dude, James is a weird guy. You know, he's at the beach, and he's immediately thinking about how he's going to win in Tekken. I agree with you. If I was at the beach, I'd be doing rails nonstop. You know, it'd be crazy, you know? So you know, obviously, he's a weird guy, you know? And that's how you produce results. Do you want someone like Just Train James able to change Tekken 7 or be? Do you think he's qualified? You know, it doesn't. He's not. Is basically what I'm saying. You know, so yeah, that's why it's hard for you to beat him. I think that's why it's hard for you to beat him. And he beat me at Evo, you know, and as soon as I lost to him, even though I lost to a mistake on my part, and I was very angry about that, when I lost to him, I thought, dude, obviously he's going to produce better results than me. He fucking loves this shit. He loves it. If he didn't produce better results than me, it's a bad game. And he did produce better results than me, so that tells you it's a decent game. You know, that's solid. So, okay. He's a bitch. Do you have any others?
Do I have any others? No, I didn't prepare that many today.
No,
Sorry.
I mean, there's, you know, if you...
I haven't gone for a while, though. Wait.
Yeah, you should have
on the beach?
Did you have one at the beach? Don't tell any stories we can't hear, dude. I don't want any trouble.
Yeah, that's questionable. No, I don't think I got anyone else. I've had a very good time. And you know, I don't think I got to say this on the show, but I did have a good time at the beach, and my contract says so. Go on.
Okay. Okay. I don't know who's a bitch.
Wow. What is this? What show are we on, dude? What the hell's going on?
Who's a bitch, dude? I don't know, man. Everyone's a bitch, dude. Everyone's a fucking
Oh,
bitch.
dude, come
man.
on. Are you seriously gonna? You can't get away with this.
No, I'll call someone a bitch. I'm thinking. You got any suggestions? I heard an ooh. Rip.
Oh no, my ooh was the guy. The guy who was a bitch at VXG was the guy who was like in charge of being I guess the TO or something. I don't know who he was, but this is what I know about him. Day one, we had like 50 people for Marvel or whatever, and he had like 8 setups, and he's all like, all right guys, here's my paper brackets. It's on line paper, and we're gonna run every match on stream.
College
I'm
rule.
like, there's 50 people here. You're gonna make them all wait one match at a time? Like, there's the beach outside, you know? Like,
do you know you live at the beach? Are you aware?
I mean, like, that, like, VXG obviously has some issues. VXG has some issues, but I mean, like, man.
There's
like,
a beach outside. That's really good. Because, in the past, when we've had bad tournament organizers, we didn't have that great excuse, man. Like, hurry up, man. I got something to do. This one's perfect. It's like, look out the window, motherfucker. There's a beach. So
Yeah, so that guy. He
Okay,
deserves it.
I know who I gotta call a bitch. I'm surprised I didn't know it immediately. Even though I'm not angry with him, I want to make that clear. But obviously, I gotta call Fighting GM a bitch. I mean, clearly. I mean, that guy, what a moron, dude. I reminded him like the day of the podcast last week, and he was like, "You got it, player," or whatever the fuck he says. Whatever. I don't know how he talks, but I don't have a GM impression. But dude, 8 o'clock comes and nothing. I don't hear anything from him. Right at the end of the show, he tweets, "All right, man, I'm ready." Like, what the fuck, dude? Come on. So anyway, Fighting GM, even though you are not responsible for being on here and you have you don't have to explain yourself. You could tell me to go fuck myself and you don't have to answer to me. Either way, you're a cool dude, but you're a bitch. Get a smartphone or something, dude, because how could you forget something like that? Anyway, and he's immediately...
Our show was ass. Oh, it is, man.
Oh, yeah, it's ass. I forgot about that.
Sukin user.
No, that's Blood Red, right? What's his name? That's his name, right? Blood Red?
No, Blood Red has that super deep voice.
Yo, Sukin user. Yeah, that's that guy. Sukin user. Yeah, anyway. All right, do you guys have anything to plug?
Whenever James is around.
Typing in the chat. You guys are both idiots.
The wrong thing,
Same time. Nice one. What did you say?
Follow me on Twitter. This is my name right here. Rickstah.
Definitely.
Yeah, follow me at Twitter too. I'm gonna have Just from James on eventually to do the Yoshimitsu bread and butter because I know a lot of people want to see that one. James is into it, so that's gonna happen eventually.
It's gonna be really
Injustice
good.
app. Yeah, the Injustice app is going to be updated with Zod, Martian Manhunter, and Zatanna on Wednesday. So you guys can look forward to that if you have the Android version. iPhone version I tried, but they keep rejecting it, so I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It's on my phone right now, but you guys can't have it. So yeah.
Well, that's fucked up. But yeah, make sure you check all that stuff out. Level up your game and all that. Rickstah has pretty much nothing going on other than this show and Wednesday Night Fights commentary, but make sure you follow him and call him a bitch on a regular basis.
I might stream someday. I think I'm actually going to start streaming. Not like regularly, but I mean, I'll stream randomly.
You should, man.
I'll probably start streaming either this week or next week. I'll probably stream like Tekken or something.
I really think everyone should stream, even if nobody gives a shit and, nobody's really watching. Who gives a shit, man? Turn it on and let people decide whether or not you're cool, I mean, there's no other way to do it.
You just made everyone not want to stream.
Why?
Let everyone determine if you're cool or not. I don't want to be not cool.
Well, if you're going to worry about being cool, let me save you some time. You're not cool.
You're not
cool. But
you
should just do it anyway,
So don't stream, that's what Aris is saying.
I'm not cool. I'm not fucking cool at all. I'm fucking lame, dude. I don't do shit. But whatever, turn on the camera and talk some shit, call someone a bitch, and maybe someone will like it. At least it's promoting what you like, which is games, and everyone likes playing games and shit. So whatever, do it. Anyway, what do I have to say? I have some important shit to say. Oh, hey, internet. Anyone who's watching this, if you guys have any skills on making emoticons, there's already been a couple people who have sent me a few. If you have any free time or any abilities, make a few, send them over to me. If I like them a lot, I'll use them because I got no fucking abilities and no skills. So, there are a couple people who, are fans who are actually helping out with that and they're working on like little smileys. But yeah, if you got some skills with that, help a brother out, and if I really like what you do, I'll definitely use it, and I'll really appreciate that.
What's the dimensions for them?
I
28
think,
by 28.
Yeah, the smileys have to be 28 by 28, and the badge icon, instead of a black star, has to be 18 by 18, so it's a little bit smaller. And they have to be like transparent PNG files or some shit, whatever the fuck that means.
It's so hard. Why are these squares and so small?
Wow. Dude, you're talking to the wrong guy, man. It's a miracle that I even know how to do any of this stuff, so I don't even know any of that shit. But anyway, yeah, check that out. Subscribe both to Rip, Level Up Your Game. He's got a subscribe button, and myself, we got a subscribe button going. So if you really like this shit, make sure you support. And what else? Ricky?
Go watch Tekken Smash or whatever.